Hey, what's up, people of the world? I have gotten rather positive reviews on the latest Zelda manga videos that I did. Not that the views were high, like, we're not talking more than 50 views, don't worry here. But I've got a few positive comments, and honestly, like, that makes me very happy. If people enjoy it, that's great, If there is a need for weep shit, I will provide it. So I thought a lot about what weep stuff to talk about. One thing that came to my mind out of all the things that I watched in the past is Assassination Classroom. And at first I thought, like, I really can't endorse that. Is that really any good? I guess I should explain. For those that don't know, Assassination Classroom is basically about a very powerful, overpowered alien that at first destroys the moon and then threatens to destroy the entire Earth. His conditions are that he's going to be teaching a classroom of normal children, and while he's going to be teaching them, it's their role to assassinate him. Like, he won't kill them if he catches them, but he also won't, let them do it. But besides him being a super invincible alien, he also happens to be a really good teacher that genuinely cares about being a good teacher and teaching them well. The government actually provides these children with military experts and weapons and all they need to do it, and they even sweeten the deal by promising them 10 million yen if they succeed. And basically, while the anime goes the way that the teacher is teaching them casually, talking about homework and stuff, and all of a sudden they're going to pick up their guns and try to assassinate him. At first it's quite elaborate and also a little bit tense. Are they going to do it or not? Their plans are always pretty clever, but within a few episodes it stops working, because it's pretty obvious that they are not going to do it in episode 3, because that would end the anime and we have like 8 more episodes to go or something like that. So because of that, it becomes quite repetitive, to be honest, even though it might be fun to see the plans they came up with. So at first I thought that there really isn't anything too worthwhile to say about this anime. But the more I thought about it, there is actually a very strong positive message that I interpreted from this, especially within its school context. And I would say that this message is working together. Like, literally working together, because they literally need to do it. It sounds quite cliche and obvious, like it's a very common theme, but I think they did it really well, especially within the context of the school system, which is kind of depressive, to be honest. Like, the school system in Japan is very rigorous, there's a lot of studying, they don't have too much time to socialize, they spend like 240 days per year in school, and that also includes Saturday mornings. When they actually have that short 6-week summer holidays, they're still expected to take like educational classes and stuff. For children, it seemed to be their top priority to do well in school, and if they do that, they're considered to be doing their obligation to the family. Most of the socialization and dating life that they have is usually tied to their school, because they don't have time to hang out outside of school. Maybe if you know, like, there's also those anime uniforms that they usually wear. While they are very cute, they actually sort of have the dark side to them, because they are sort of molding everyone together into their class in a very collectivist way. You can't self-express with the way you dress. I'm personally kind of fond of the idea of the school uniform, because it's sort of a social corrective, so to say. Like, everyone is sort of the same, even if you're rich or poor. But especially in that Japanese context, I think that it's sort of negative, because they're all just the same. Everyone's dressed the same, everyone has black hair. They're not allowed to have anything special on them that would differentiate them. Like, I even heard like absurd things that if they happen to naturally have like brown hair or something, then they have to color them to black. So it can be pretty depressive. There's also a very strong sense of academic competition. So when they're taking tests, they're often competing with each other, with their friends, and they're trying to beat each other's in their own friend groups. So especially when it comes to university tests, like, this is where it gets very competitive, because there's only so many spots for students to enroll to those really good universities. But besides that, there actually isn't too much open, active anti-school behavior being showed at school. Like, there's a lot less violence than in American school, and so on and so on. But when actually asked, like, more than half students expressed they find rules too strict, and in general, they're not actually too happy with it. You know, if we just look at the polling and stuff like that. There's also a very bad rising trend of dropout students. So more and more students are basically simply turning themselves out, and they just don't come to schools, they don't cooperate, they plug themselves out from the society. You know, they just don't like being there, like, genuinely. You know, it's not that they're stupid, but they're just completely alienated from it. And it all comes, to be honest, like, it all comes down to this: the school system. It's all indoctrination for the corporate life. So once you grow up and you need to get a job and go to work, and then, you know, that's the worst part. So the job market in Japan is even more brutal. So while the competitive nature of Japanese schools and corporate life as well, to be honest, it does provide results. Like, they do genuinely learn a lot, they do genuinely know a lot, and the corporate system, the capitalist status quo, it produces a lot of stuff. But I still think that it's a fundamentally broken system, and honestly, this isn't just about Japan. Like, the entire Western world has sort of a similar model. But I consider it to be extremely alienating to study for the sake of social expectations, just to get some very abstract points on a test, and to get a very abstract grade. Because in my opinion, reality is very beautiful. Like, it's genuinely amazing how it works, and the fact that we have this organized learning, that everyone has a chance to be educated and to learn, it really should be seen as something extremely positive. It's a good thing. It genuinely is a good thing that everyone can be educated. And it's just such a shame that most of the children just aren't into it, they're not enjoying it, and they're doing it just to get some abstract grade. And I know that myself, especially. You know, I never liked studying too much, and it always felt like I was being forced. Like, you need to do this because this is your social expectation. Once you do this, you go out of school and you get a job or whatever. And, you know, just not feeling satisfied by it. And it's a shame, because it's a beautiful thing to study, because reality is wonderful. And I think that assassination classrooms sort of hints and changes this paradigm a little bit. Because in that environment, the students are not competing against each other, but are instead working to the common goal. So every individual here is important to them in order to carry out the assassination task. It would be stupid here to compete against each other, like who is better at assassinating, because everyone needs to do their part, everyone needs to work together to do it. So especially because if you consider the context, the students in this assassination classroom are, they happen to be the dropouts, they happen to be the students with the worst grades, the most alienated one. They're like the most alienated and frowned upon within that society. And there's literally a depiction where a student with a good grade is, literally bullying one of the characters for doing bad on a test. Like, it's ridiculous to me. I can't, it's just stupid. That shouldn't happen. So, like, in this settings, when they get a common goal and genuine motivation to do well, and they also do well in their academic field as well, so it's not just about assassination. The ultimate problem with a competitive system like this is that you can't really have a real camaraderie with your peers if ultimately you are competing for either best grades or promotions in corporate settings. It really sucks, but it pays off not to help your peers, not to work together in this kind of setting, because ultimately only so many people can get promotions, or there's only so many top 10 places on that grade chart, and in my opinion, it's not a very healthy way to live, even if it produces concrete results. And I would say that the proof for this is that despite of us having much more material wealth than we could ever imagine before, we're sort of regressing as a society. There's more and more suicides, and more and more people are just completely shut off from society, and they just indulge in escapism, like video games or drugs. Like in Japan, there's even a term for overworking. Like you have to imagine the insane ideology behind a person being brainwashed into working to death. And the excess material wealth that we produce, it really isn't going to the society as a whole. Instead, it's being more and more held by a selected wealthy elite, because I suppose that's just the reality of competition. In competition, there can only be so many winners. There needs to be losers in order to have a competition. So we must learn from Assassination Classroom, in my opinion, because the proper assassination can only be done as a team. You can't compete against each other who's going to do it better. Either it's done or it's not done. It needs to be a coordinated success. So, while I'm not all that hyped about the premise of the Assassination Classroom itself, I think that the message of working together here works really well, especially within this Japanese school setting, in that Japanese learning culture. In that setting, I think that it works very well, and especially within this group of underperforming students. Even though, like, working together, teamwork, it's a cliche topic, but I don't think that we really, feel what it means. And I guess I should talk about the anime as well a little bit, not only about this interpretation. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's drawn beautifully, it looks really nice. There's a lot of interesting, unique characters that are very good looking, it's a beauty to look at. There's a strong underdog story going on with the main character, Nagisa, and he looks like a girl, so at first I thought he was a girl, and I wasn't sure if he was a girl or a boy, but that's fun. That's okay, I don't mind. There's even, I liked it when in the end, anime sort of made fun of itself, where Nagisa was being forced into situations where he had to pretend to be a girl, in order to help the team achieve a certain objective, and I think it was kind of funny. I also happened to watch the German dub of this, and I'd like to comment that to a non-native German speaker didn't sound really cool. I have no idea if the author intended this message that I interpreted. For all I know, maybe he was even trying to help the status quo, but that's okay. I consider the interpretation to be sort of a more important than the intent of the artist, but I suppose that here it's actually an interesting debate to be had. So when it comes to artistic works, is the interpretation that you get less viable if the author intended it differently? Is the author's intent stronger here? So that's what I wanted to comment here. I hope you sort of found this interesting. I wish I could tell you more about the anime. I really can't. I don't know what to say about the anime, to be honest, all that much. I guess I liked it. I watched it for the first time and enjoyed it quite a lot. Maybe go ahead and check it out. It's not as popular anymore, so that's all that I have to say.